Today I'm going to talk about, by popular request of one dude, Soma. We're going to talk about Lent to prepare. And I found a solution to my dilemma. My dilemma is this, that the really interesting passage to talk about at the beginning of Soma is the temptation of Christ, because he goes out to the desert for 40 days, and that's what we're doing during the season of Lent. But my dilemma was that that's the gospel that we're going to hear at Mass this Sunday, and I didn't want to just kind of be repetitive because then, so what I decided was I'm going to talk about another passage a couple chapters later in Matthew's Gospel of where Jesus himself talks about fasting and the way we're supposed to fast. So it's Matthew chapter 6, if you've got your Bibles. I've got my notes, and do I have markers? Let's see if this one's better. This one's even worse. Okay, when this one dies, you'll hear me exclaim with annoyance about how it's not working, which is somebody's cue to go back and find a better one. Whatever. Okay. Matthew chapter 6, verse 1. Beware of practicing your piety before men in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give alms, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by men. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by men. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And in praying, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Then he says, pray like this, and he gives us the Our Father, which is the subject for several hours of lecture, and I'm not going to have time to talk about the Our Father. So skip to the end of it. I know, weird, right? Of all things to skip. Go to verse 16. And when you fast, finally he gets to fasting, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by men. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by men, but by your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So, what we have here in this chapter of Matthew is the works of piety. I'm going to give them that label. The word piety has a very long, kind of interesting history, but for our purposes, what piety means is something that we do for God. Okay, a pious act is something that we do for God. These acts of piety are three. There's three different things we do. One, and I'm going to give you his order. One is giving alms. We'll talk about that in a second. Number two is prayer. Actually, somebody go find a better marker. Number three is fasting. Are they fighting over who's going to get the marker? Fasting. All right. These are religious practices, pious practices, devotional practices, things that we do. This is bad. These are the violin. Let me close this door at least. Some of them. Things that we do to grow closer to God. That's the idea. What is it to give alms? Giving alms means you're helping the poor. You are giving money to somebody who doesn't have money. Very simple. However, Jesus' warning we're going to get to in a second. So what does that mean? That means, oddly enough, there's a right way. Well, let me be precise here. There's a better way and a worse way to give alms. Better and worse. I'm not going to say right or wrong. And here's why. Let me just sort of say this up front. Whatever your intention is in your heart, let's say you want to, I don't know, impress a girl. And so you go and help some poor person. I mean, you didn't do a bad thing. The poor person's still going to eat that day, you know. You didn't do it for the best reason, but you didn't do a bad thing. So I'm not going to say there's right and wrong, or the right way or the wrong way to do it, but there's certainly better and worse. And worse doesn't mean sinful or evil. It just means you're selling it short. The act can be better. It can be more than what you're giving it credit for. Okay. Same thing with prayer, and same thing with fasting. So you can pray. Prayer is the one where you sort of wonder if it really has any purpose at all, if you're just doing it to show off. We're going to talk about that in a bit. And then fasting is the one that we're going to be worried about for Soma, for Lent. Okay. Let me do something weird that only I would do. Okay? I'm going to tie this to something in Plato. In his book called The Republic, and I'm pretty sure this is book 8 of The Republic. Okay, this is a book that I teach every year because I love it so much. In The Republic, book 8. Those of you who walked in are just like, is this the right, this is Bible study or philosophy class? In Republic, book 8, Socrates is describing different forms of government. Everyone's wondering, what the hell does this have to do with fasting? Okay. Different forms of government. Should I not say bad words here? Okay. Different forms of government. And he ranks them according to what they love most, what they take the most pleasure in, what they want the most, okay? What they desire most. And so, and he does it according to, these are, I'm going to give you the Greek words here. There's demos, there's oligos, oligos, timos, and aristos. And all of them can turn into different types. Now, there's actually way more than this, and Socrates himself is going to explain, he's not really referring just to governments here, he's referring to types of people and what people care about. And he ranks them in this way. What is it to have a democratic soul? Demos, we think democratic, the way we use the word democratic today is to mean everybody kind of gets an equal vote. Demos here actually meant the lowest sort of classes. So democracy, so kratos is rulership. So the rulership of the demos means the lower classes call the shots. And what they want, so what does it mean to have a democratic soul? It means the lowest part of your soul, the lowest sort of strata of your soul, all your lowest desires decide what you do. What you care about is the lowest stuff. So this would be sexual things, it would be eating, it would be very sort of bodily things. And this is what rules your life. This is a type of rulership. What you care about, what determines your actions and choices, is the lowest part of you. These desires, these bodily desires. Oligos, what's an oligarch? Anybody know what this word means? What oligarchy means?
Ruled by many.
Ruled by, no, not by many. Oligos, the word itself means few, but it has a very specific meaning the way we use it. What does it mean for America to be an oligarchy today? Which I would argue it is.
Well, the few, the wealthy.
The wealthy, that's what oligarchy means. Oligarchy means ruler, so demos is pleasure, is rulership by, there's a couple of steps in between before we get to this, but let me just put this out here and just trust me on this. Oligos is ruled by money. So what does it mean to have an oligarchic soul? It means everything you do is to make a profit or to avoid losing money. All your choices, what you love most is money, okay? Timocracy, timos, is honor, okay? And aristos is virtue. So Socrates gives us a story about how one of these types of government can turn into another. Somebody who is, let's say, virtuous can become sort of more shallow and just care about being praised. if they don't sort of pay attention to things. Somebody who cares about honor can sort of fall into just caring about money. He gives a story of how to do that, how that can happen. And somebody who's just really into money can sort of fall into just somebody who just blows everything on drugs and sex and stuff like that, okay? The more interesting story is how you get better. And so these are ranked best to worst. And so if you read it backwards, if you read Republic Book 8 backwards, it's actually a story about how can you take somebody who is just really obsessed with pleasure and teach them, well, at the very least get a job, you know, and then maybe you'll have a house. And then maybe you'll have, in the future, you'll have better pleasure than just spending everything on cocaine. You know what I mean? We've all been there, right? Just making sure you're paying attention. Okay. And then once you have an oligarch, once you have somebody who's, here's why is it better to be an oligarch than to be a democratic soul? Because at least this guy has some discipline. At least this guy gets up in the morning and has a sort of ordered life. However, this is a pretty lousy way to live still. So how do you turn somebody with just a bunch of money into a timocrat? Well, there's certain ways to do that. And why is this better? Well, at least this guy does something good with his money. It's not all about him and keeping it in the bank. This guy, you convince him to start donating so he can get his name on a plaque somewhere. So he's doing it for honor. He's doing it to show off. But at least the city got a nice hospital out of it, you know? You know Rady's hospital? Rady's just this dude. I met him. I just randomly met Rady at this dinner at UCSD. And me and my friend Matt were sitting there. This old dude comes and sits next to me. He's kind of this funny old guy, like in his 90s. And we're talking to him or whatever. And he's like, and I said, I'm going to get a beer. You want a beer? He's like, yeah, I'll have a beer. And I give him a beer. And he talks about his golfing buddies and how they're all dying and stuff like that. And then he leaves. And then Matt looks up his name on his name tag. And he's like, that was Rady, as in Rady's hospital, one of the richest men in California. We were just drink. So that guy has all the money in the world. He owns banks and all kinds of stuff like that. But what's he going to do with it? He realizes it's lame, so he gets his name on a bunch of buildings. It's better, right? At least somebody else gets something out of it. However, now we're back to the gospel. This is also kind of lame. And the place where Matthew chapter 6 fits into a classical structure is, how do you go from somebody who's doing something for honor to somebody who does something just because it's the right thing to do? And that's exactly where we're at, okay? Does that make sense? Now, I said at the beginning, I don't want to tell you that fasting or praying or giving alms just to show off is bad, as in it's a sin, but it's not the best. I wanted to put this structure up here. There's a million ways to organize things, but this is just something interesting that you see in Plato that gives us context. All of Matthew chapter 6 fits in right here. Now, there's a few interesting things to point out before we get into the details. One, this is kind of a compliment, because what's addressed to us in the gospel is assuming that we're already up here. You know what I mean? Another thing that's really important to note, though, is according to Socrates, and I really think this is just right, and this is really true, you really have to kind of take it a step at a time. If you are, or the person that you're trying to help, is not even close to even doing anything for honor. If you're talking to like a crackhead, you know what I mean? I'm not sure you want to say like you need to do something because it's they're not there, you know? You got to sort of meet them where they're at. And I think Socrates, when he describes sort of one step at a time, I think he's accurate about that. You know what I mean? So what Jesus is saying is, we're up here. It might not be the right thing to hear if you're, sort of all the way down here. Maybe you need any reason. If you're a crackhead or if you're addicted to pornography or something like that, literally any reason to stop doing it is a good reason. Don't worry about, like, am I doing this because for God, or because my mom is going to get mad at me, or because I'm going to lose? Literally any reason is a good reason to stop. Anything. And if it's money, good. If it's, I'm going to get kicked out of my parents' house, or I'm going to lose my job and I have to stop because of that, good. Don't worry about anything deeper than that for that person. You guys with me on that? And if that's you, same thing. Be humble enough to sort of accept where you're at. Any reason to not do it is good enough. Okay.
What would the happiness be in those?
All the way up here.
By virtue?
However, that's a cool question. Happiness is also in the motion upward.
So where would you feel satisfied or fulfilled in those states?
So both all the way up here, and also as you're getting better, as you're improving.
Are you saying?
I can say it a
above
third
here?
time. You want me to say it again?
Well, are you saying above
Both
here?
here
which
and
means-
here.
No, I'm not
Yeah.
saying,
Okay.
I'm just asking my question to see
Yeah.
if it's answered.
Yeah.
Aristotle said that virtue
Plato.
is, well, you wrote Aristus?
Yeah.
Are you saying that happiness is above all of them, or is it in the virtue?
The happy soul is the one that's living this life.
Why is that?
Read the Republic.
Nice.
Yeah. No, really. I can't give you a short answer for that
Is
one.
there a short answer?
No, no, no.
Okay.
It's an awesome question, but it's a hard answer. In fact, this entire book, not just book 8, the entire book is the answer to that question.
Do they have it?
I have an
Oh,
answer. Maybe
Thank you.
I
So
can answer his question.
I don't want to answer that question.
So is happiness the ultimate goal though?
Yeah,
Is it though?
sure it is.
Because as humans we're flawed. The same thing that makes us happy today. will
No,
make us
so
happy tomorrow.
here's the punchline. The punchline is all the stuff that you think is going to make you happy when you're down here doesn't actually make you happy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is about happiness. It's about real happiness, not this BS down here. It's not about cocaine or just having a bunch of money in the bank or just having your name on stuff or having people. So let's get to this. So now I'm not going to, so if you're a crackhead, I'm sorry, I'm going to neglect you today. There's about half of you, like this half of the room. And then if you're money hungry, which is most Chaldeans,
Most of the world.
you're most of the world, but we're really good at it. Okay?
Most of the world.
I'm going to leave you behind as well. We'll sort of deal with you another time. Jesus is addressing people that are here, and here he's giving advice on how you go from this one to this one. Okay, so let's get into this one. Let's get into the mindset of somebody who's over here. Because, by the way, but let me say that. I mean, it's pretty obvious already, but let me say it out loud. You can be all of these in different parts of yourself. I can be very virtuous when it comes to certain things, and I can be just a show-off when it comes to other things, and I can be money hungry when it comes to other things, and I can be a crackhead when it comes to French fries, which are bad because like I already have oily skin, right? But I'm not going to eat them so that I don't get zits, which is really up here. It's not really virtuous. Why am I talking about this?
It's in the Bible.
Delete that when you. Well, I lost my spot.
Well, when
Okay, yeah,
Matthew
you said
says
something.
honor to,
Okay. So let's get in here. Let's get our minds in. So, what parts of you are right here that need to improve? That part of you that would be the end of the world if certain people that you knew and cared about and admired thought something badly of you. Okay? It's not, I mean, for sure that hurts or that's like sad or you kind of wonder, okay, maybe they're right about some critique. That's different. If you are just devastated and you just, oh my gosh, or I don't know, I mean, here's another funny way to sort of see the difference between this and this. If you spend a whole ton of money, way more than you should with your income, on like an awesome car, so that people can talk about what an awesome car you have, yeah, you're over here. At least you're not an oligarch. I'm not sure how, again, you see how it's like sort of better, but not much. Like awesome car. What's really honorable there? You know what I mean? So reputation, popularity, high schoolers are really into being liked by everybody, but there's certain personality types also that it's just hard for them that when they know somebody doesn't like them. Okay. Now how do you go from one thing to another? Jesus is introducing something that Socrates can't really do where he's coming from because he's a sort of ancient Greek. Jesus is introducing God into the picture. Okay. Now, could somebody become disciplined without any explicit sort of religious stuff? Yeah, they could become disciplined and get a job. You know, could they go from here to here? Sure. Anybody? I mean, a lot of people just sort of with a lot of money can understand that it gets boring. Like, okay, I got a bunch of money and then I'm going to get a bunch more money. Like, okay, now what? You know, you sort of. But going from here to here, Plato has a story as well. But his story is really interesting. He basically inserts God into the person that you're trying to impress. Very interesting. So I want to look good to impress whatever person so that they like me for whatever reason. Jesus saying, okay, well, let's make God one of your friends. And in the same way that you would really try hard to make your friends happy with you, Well, God is one of your friends. And the stuff that God cares about is not what kind of car you drive or what name you have on your building. The stuff that God really cares about is your love and devotion and the purity of your heart and your soul. And this is the stuff that only He can see and nobody else can see. So it's like having your name on a building that's invisible. And why is that important? Because why is it the thing that all of these have in common, all this prayer and fasting, the thing that He keeps repeating all 3 times is when other people see it, it ruins it. Do it so that only God can see it. Now, what's the pattern we can think to understand that with? Well, this nice nun brought me some kumquats today, and I just gave them to all of you because I like to share. But what if, I don't know, somebody made something that's handmade just for you, and you were the only person in the world that possesses it? It's more special that way, right? Your husband or wife, whatever, they do something, and it's literally one of a kind. Okay, yeah, it is more special, and it's only for you, and nobody else is going to know about this. And it's just literally from my heart to yours. Yeah, it's way more special that way. And Jesus is saying, when we give alms, pray, and fast, that we have to be doing it as a one-of-a-kind thing that only God gets. And that makes it a very special thing. I think that's really cool. Now, if we go into Soma with that mindset, we're going to get a lot out of it. Okay? Because even with Soma, even with the season of Lent, we can mess this up. I mean, Jesus wasn't just addressing this chapter to these dudes in the first century that are no longer, they're no longer with us, and now, thank God, we never do anything to show off. Thank God we're so much better than these people. No, not at all. We need to hear this as much as anybody else ever did. Okay. So, let's work through some of this. Let's start with alms. Go to verse 2. How am I doing on time? Thus when you give alms, that's the first one, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by men. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. Okay, this is a really weird image. Yeah.
Sorry, I want to know where are we?
Matthew chapter 6,
Okay.
verse 2. Good question.
Thank you.
Anybody else kind of smile at that? I think that's a really funny image. Sound a trumpet before you when you give alms. If this is literally what they were doing, good Lord. Can you imagine this? Somebody, let's say there's a box for poor people, the donations are there, and if somebody, instead of somebody just going up and putting their coin in, they literally have they hire a dude to play a trumpet so everybody looks, so that they can, you guys see that it's ridiculous? I don't know if they were really doing it. It's hilarious if they were actually doing it.
Have they faced
But,
them in
however, if they weren't, it shows Jesus exaggerating to make fun of them, which I love even more. Okay, yeah.
So, it's kind of a funny parallel. At Panda Express, whenever they ask if you want to round up the dollar and you do it, they'll ring the bell. And then,
there you go.
and then everybody says thank you.
So at Panda Express, I'm going to say this out loud, apparently you can round up the dollar to give to the poor or something like that, and they ring a bell. All right.
They all say thank you.
So, and they thank you. So you've lost your reward with God. However, yeah, you didn't ask for it, so yeah, maybe you still did, but however, their goal is not to get you to heaven. Their goal is to raise money for the poor, and that's probably better accomplished. Here's the problem. The higher up you get, the fewer people you can access. So if you really want to get to a lot of people, sell crack. Or own a porn website. This is where you're going to get a lot of traffic. Okay?
Who's gonna bail
If
us
you
out
would-
when we go to jail?
Not me.
At least put money on our
nope.
books if you're gonna advise us to sell drugs.
Or if you can promise somebody that you're going to make them a lot of money, you're going to get a lot of people. Or at the very least, tell people that you can help them show off. If you want a lot of donations, you got to do this. If your goal is to get money, you have to play this game. If your goal is to get into heaven, Jesus is playing a totally different game. He's not interested in your money, he's interested in your soul. Okay. So, sound no trumpet. Okay, what am I supposed to do then if I don't get to ring the bell at, what is it, Panda Express? I don't think I've ever eaten there. Maybe I've eaten there. I have eaten there, it's good actually. Okay. But when you give alms, Do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. So here, the text is suggesting that the trumpet was an exaggeration. You know why? Because not letting your right hand know what your left hand is doing is clearly an exaggeration. Okay, so Jesus is he's speaking in hyperbole to make a point. He wants to shake people. He wants to get under their skin. And so, oh, you might as well be blowing a trumpet when you do things in front of others. You might as well be. And on the contrary, I'm going to tell you, even your other hand should know what it's doing. Obviously, your hand doesn't have a brain to know things or not know things. But what's the idea? It should be that secret. So this makes it really interesting. It's not just I need to make the effort to give this poor person some money. I also need to make an equal effort to make sure that nobody knows about it. Which is hard. It's hard to do that. It's hard to do good things and not be known. Not just hard internally, as in you really want people to know, but like you kind of have to be clever about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna give this dude like, okay, we saw him like need some money. Something like, oh man. Hey, what's up, man? Like it was one of those. Like instead of selling crack to him. Okay. Moving on.
Didn't hear that.
When you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by men. No exaggeration here. Interesting, right? No trumpet. This is verse 5. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. What's their reward? People think that they're holy. Okay? But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Now here's something that's really funny. And in fact, let me read the fasting part, and then I'm going to show you kind of a punchline that we do as a church. Verse 16, all the way down there. When you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites. Okay, let me make another application of this. When you're suffering in general, don't try to get pity for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you're having a bad day and you just kind of mope, and you're just kind of whiny. Gosh, whatever good that could have done for your soul, that suffering could have done for your soul, is wasted because you're being passive aggressive or whatever. You're using it for attention. And it's a lame trade, because the graces that you can get from actually bearing suffering with nobility and with grace and patience, that can really purify you a lot. But if you turn it into whining, okay, you traded grace and improvement in your soul for somebody feeling sorry for you for 5 seconds, and then immediately being annoyed by the way, just so you know. It's a kind of a lame trade, you know? So, and apparently they disfigure their faces. Again, this was something that people would do. Maybe, that they may be seen by men, that their fasting may be seen by men. They've received their reward. Instead, anoint your head, wash your face, which I do a lot because of the French fries. You guys are laughing, it's so true. That your fasting may not be seen by men, but by your Father who is in secret. Okay, so here's the funny thing. What we do as a church you have to do this. The church makes you. You have to not eat meat on Fridays during Lent. In fact, I don't have the calendar in front of me. I think the whole first week of Lent, you are not supposed to eat meat. Right? That's what it says on the calendar. You have to. You know why that's awesome? Because even if people know about it, yeah, big deal, everyone has to do that. So you can't use it to show off anymore. You have to go to Mass. It's a sin if you don't on Sunday. So when you're there, so somebody could say, well, they pray in public and people see them, but it doesn't, so why should we go to church and pray in public? Because you can't show off. You have to do this. It's the bare minimum. There's nothing showy-offy about that. You know what I mean? So it's good. This is the commandments of the church are giving us this opportunity to do good work and do it in public without having to like literally hide inside of our room. Oh my gosh, oh my mom doesn't see me praying. Oh, you know, that like God's going to take the graces away or something. No, there's nothing to show off here. There's nothing special about you. If you fast during Soma, if you go to Mass on Sunday, you're nothing. You're still a loser just like me. And that's great because that means you can't show off with it. Okay? And all the other stuff, all the extra stuff you do, and these are the 3 categories of the stuff that we're supposed to do in Lent. We're supposed to do all this. We're supposed to give alms. You were supposed to do this. Is part of Lent, guys. Give away material property. I'm not going to water this down. Give something away to somebody in need. I don't care how you do it. In fact, don't tell me, because then, It could also be of giving your time, because time is money. I really believe that. Give your time to somebody who literally can't repay you at all. At all. Okay? This is why I'm here. So you're supposed to, so even if you do this on a regular basis, during Lent, do more. Simple as that. Do more of it. 7 weeks. Prayer, same thing. Let's say you already have a pretty good prayer life. You pray your Our Father every day, you pray your rosary every day, whatever it is, you try to go to Mass once in a while during the week. Good. Whatever you're at, wherever you're at, do a little more. 10%. I don't know how to make this a number thing, because we like numbers sometimes. Just do a little more. Make a little bit more of an effort, and make it invisible. I tell only my spiritual director, who's this priest that I get advice from, I tell him just so he can, kind of give me a check mark and say, yeah, that's good, that's moderate, that's not too much, too little, whatever, Same thing. So same thing here with fasting. All right, we're supposed to not eat meat, whatever, first week, and then the last week, and I think the middle week, the fourth week. And then Fridays in between that. Okay, in addition to that, what does fasting mean? Certainly food could work. And again, I know plenty of people who, they give up, I'm going to give up carbs for Soma. All right, I know what you're doing. Everyone knows what you're doing. I'm not going to say it's wrong, but all right, let's, maybe Instagram is, you can add that to your Atkins diet, You know what I mean? Twitter, whatever the thing. I just started Duolingo. No, I'm going to keep doing that. You're learning. But stuff like that. These little stupid things that you don't really need, but you come to depend on, and it becomes this weird emotional attachment you have to a really stupid thing, These are good things to kind of fast from. And this is what we stress for little kids, because it's a very concrete thing, and little kids don't have money to give away, But as adults, really see this as a kind of complete picture. This all goes together. And now, what's behind this? This is not arbitrary stuff. It's not like God could have said for someone we're supposed to just hop on one leg for 6-7 weeks. It's not just arbitrary stuff. There's reasons why these are the three. Why? Well, we are too attached to money. I mean, it's sort of here. We're too attached to it, so give it away. When you're attached to something, let go of it. And it'll make you less attached to it. Eventually, it'll hurt at first, but then, Prayer, we do neglect our relationship with God. I mean, it's sort of here, because our relationships with other people, we get so obsessive about them, you know what I mean? That we stop caring about our friendship with God. I mean, I kind of want to draw a line. Let's see if I can pull this off. What did I say? This was here, and then this is over here, and of course this would be over here. Fasting is all these bodily pleasures. I had no idea about this 30 seconds ago. So this could detach us from these bodily pleasures. This detaches us from our love of money, and then this detaches us, at least increases our attachment to God and detaches us from honor. However, all of them really have to do with this, because they have to do, the way Jesus is phrasing them is, you're too attached to what people think about you. And you're not attached enough to what God thinks of you. Okay. Are you guys seeing how this kind of all goes together? So, let me see what my notes say. All right. That's what I have to say about Psalm 9. I have a lot more to say about Republic 8. Teaching it next quarter. Mr. Harmy's in the back.
Well, aren't they also counterparts of threefold lust of Genesis?
Yeah, Genesis and what, 1 John?
Yeah, exactly.
Lust of what? The flesh? Lust of the eyes?
The eye and pride of life.
I guess that's a little bit of a stretch, but yeah. The Bible likes the number 3, so there's always 3 of stuff that you can kind of yeah. But yeah, you could argue that. There's also the 3 temptations of Christ, which you can hear about on Sunday, which also associate with these in various ways, and with what Alan was mentioning. Yeah.
So 2 part. First part is I know Latin rite and Eastern rite. approach Lent in two different ways.
Yeah,
40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah.
With God fasting in the desert,
yeah,
and then
that's a good question. So let's see. Sunday, Monday, what's your other question?
other questions with Lent, like the greater purpose of it is to kind of like to not serve two gods in a way.
Okay,
Like John says, second letter John says, do not love the world or anything in the world, because everything in the world passes away. If you're too attached to something in the world, is not also a purpose of Lent.
okay, is there a question here?
Do we acknowledge that, or
Yes.
is that more?
Because all these things are worldly things that are gonna pass away, and they're, the thing that makes all these things lame is that this is just dust.
Yeah, it passes. It's not
It's just
everlasting with God.
Yeah.
So that's to
Yeah.
show that.
So, let me just number these out. So, Wissam is pointing out something, we live in a context where most Catholics are Roman Catholics in America. So, there's different ways to number. Damn it. I gotta give up cussing for Lent. Okay. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So this is week 1 of Lent, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and I have an extra one for no reason. I can't even erase it. Okay. So the Roman Rite starts on Ash Wednesday after the Monday that we start at. Okay? So that means there's 2 extra days here. Now, if you just count to 40, all this can make sense, because the idea is we're sort of doing what Jesus did in the desert for 40 days. If you start here, 8, 9, 10. You guys are really bored now, huh? I'm self-conscious. Almost there. 37, 38, 39, 40. Okay. If you start on Monday and you skip Sundays because you're not supposed to fast on Sunday because it's the day of the resurrection, you stop. The 40th day is Holy Thursday, which begins a new season, which you call the Triduum. It's a Latin word. So if Holy Thursday begins a new thing, so 40 ends right here. If you start on Wednesday, you go all the way to Holy Saturday. You're sort of ending on a different day. I've asked my Latin Rite friends, I've kind of challenged them on this because they also think that the Triduum is a different season. So I asked them how they get to 40, and nobody has ever quite had an answer for me. So I think we're just better at counting.
Most people.
If you're asking why do we start on Monday and why they start on Wednesday, I mean either Triduum is not a season and you go till Saturday, but they say it is a season, so maybe they're just not good at math. That's my best guess.
But most people fast till Easter.
No, so when you start Holy Thursday,
Yeah.
that's when the end of Soma is, but Good Friday is a whole different fast.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
see.
So it's not like, yeah, dig in, you know. And please, I'll just say this, if you're giving up cussing or porn or something like that for Soma, don't look forward to Easter.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? The idea is, if you're like, okay, I'm gonna give up like meat or Instagram or something, oh yeah, fine. Enjoy it Sundays or Easters or whatever. If you're trying to break a habit though, let's say you're too attached to Instagram. Okay, I will suggest don't even go on Sundays because it'll help you really break the attachment. But if it's like a kind of a neutral thing, yeah, go ahead. Enjoy. I'm gonna eat meat on Sundays. I'm gonna eat a lot of meat on Sundays. I'm gonna make it a point to do that. And I'm gonna enjoy Easter for that reason because we're not talking about getting rid of a sinful habit. See the difference?
You're giving up all this food, how is that considered healing? Because the Bible talks about
Yeah.
fasting is also healing. But
Yeah.
you're malnutritioning
So
yourself,
because-
you're not being hydrated.
Oh no, yeah, okay, good. Please, please, please don't hurt your body.
Nice.
For the love of God. I don't know, your grandparents used to be like, I'm just gonna drink water for 40 days. I don't know how anybody's alive right now. And it explains how a lot of our parents are like kind of screwed up in the head because while they were in their mom's like womb, they were malnourished or something. I think that explains a lot about our parents' generation. I'm so sorry.
No, it's,
I just offended all your parents.
you're right on point.
I mean, I'm right.
When-
So yeah, so don't hurt yourself, please.
When the Bible says you're actually healing yourself, are they talking about, okay, you're lowering your cholesterol by not eating meat, your stuff like that, right? Is that what they mean by?
No, I think it's because addiction to pleasure is a disease and you're healing that.
But pleasure makes you happy though.
But it's a disease to be addicted to it. Addiction.
Well, anything to the excess
Yeah,
might be.
so that's why fasting is healing.
Okay.
Yeah, is the addiction part.
So how do you safely fast?
Talk to a doctor. No, for real. It's a medical issue.
You're the one suggesting the fasting.
Yeah, yeah. So fasting, by fasting, I don't mean anorexia.
Okay,
Yeah. In the back, yeah.
thank you.
With regard to Plato,
Yeah.
when he categorizes these different people or different sects,
Yeah.
is he talking about action or intention?
He's talking about the soul. So this is, the thing that determines this is what makes us feel good. So it's both action and intention and sort of the pleasure in it. So so it's more about sort of attachment and addiction and what we care about. Even if nobody knows or we don't quite act on it, if I really just am obsessed with money and that's all I think about day and night, I have an oligarchic soul. You know what I mean? So for Plato, it's both action and passion. It's both sort of sides of it.
Okay, so like an example that comes to mind is the church raffle. They know that people like
Oh, yeah.
Mercedes or something.
Oh yeah,
So they play off of their, like you said, playing
absolutely.
game.
Yeah,
But the intention is virtuous. It's to raise money for the church. It's to raise money for
Yeah,
charitable causes.
sure.
Is that
so you have two intentions here. This is an interesting analysis. You have two intentions. You have the intention of the person holding the raffle,
okay?
which is the parish council or whatever, and their intention is to raise money to fix the roof of the church, which has been leaking for like a decade at least. I don't know if you've noticed that. Okay, that's a good intention. It's even holy in some way because it's a holy building. Okay. However, the intention of the person buying the ticket, God knows. Maybe they're trying to help the church. Maybe they want to win the Mercedes, whatever. And I'll be really honest with you guys. I'm actually not a big fan of the bingo stuff and the raffle stuff. It's not the thing. I'm not really that fond of that. And it's not because gambling by itself is sinful. It's sinful when it's excessive, when it's too much. But it is a thing that people are addicted to, or some people are addicted to. And I just kind of shrug my shoulders like, I don't know. I personally would rather not have that money, but some other people would that are involved in the church, so whatever. I'm not going to say it's wrong or right. It's more of a judgment call.
But isn't it then like an ends justify the means type of thing?
If it were evil, if we were selling crack to raise money, then yes. But a simple, like, I have a 1 in 1,000 chance to win this Benz. A simple gamble like that is not a sin, according to anybody. You play poker with your friends at home. There's no sin there at all. It's when it's excessive that it's wrong. So even if somebody's like, I'm going to sell you a beer, I own a bar, and I'm going to sell you a beer. There's no sin there. If I'm going to sell you, poison that's going to harm you, or I'm going to sell you, in fact, this is even the law. I know you're already drunk, and I'm going to sell you another beer. No, then I'm accountable before the law. Do you guys see that? Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah.
If I give up something for like 40 days,
Yeah.
and if I forget one day,
Yeah.
or if on Friday,
Yeah.
if I like eat meat for some reason,
Yeah.
I completely forget.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
So, just go back the next day.
Okay.
Remember, this is not like a contest where, it kind of like forgets about this whole Bible passage. Like, okay, I messed up and I accidentally ate meat this Friday or whatever. Okay, forget it. I'm just going to go to hell then. Nothing's worth it anymore. Come on, man. Like, what do you think this is? God's not an accountant that's just checking off days. It's about your soul. So when you're going to screw up. The whole point of Lent, because it's challenging, here's the real thing that I want you guys to learn from Lent. I want you to learn during Lent that you are losers. That you're failures and that you're not going to be able to do what you promised to do. That's a way more important lesson than by Easter you're like, yeah, I didn't eat meat for 40 days. Or like, okay, bad then. You know what I mean? Ironically, it becomes a pride thing when we do it that way. So yeah, you screw up, you forget, even if you're not supposed to eat meat and you do out of weakness. Okay, sorry God, try again the next day. or that day, you know, later that day.
So
Yeah.
just to look at it in the big picture, you just look at your life. Eventually you're gonna sin. We're all sinners.
Yeah.
But then there's always forgiveness and
Yep.
then go back
Yep.
on track.
Yeah, Christianity is a religion of forgiveness. It's not a religion of perfection. Okay, and one of the things we learned during Lent is how screwed up we are, and how we're more addicted to these things than we thought we were. Right? I don't know what I'm going to do at red lights anymore if I give up Twitter. Don't text and drive though. That was just a bad thing to say. Don't delete that. We have a few minutes. We have 10 minutes for open Q&A.
If you, let's say, decide to start almsgiving during, Lent,
Yeah.
how do you get yourself to do it for, like, okay, I'm doing it for God, but how do you get yourself to truly care for the people that you are giving it to? Like, the difference between moral desert, doing something for that, and then for the person. Like, do you understand?
That is a Kantian category that I think is alien to Christianity. Does that answer your question? I know it answers. I know you know. Do you know? You know that?
Yeah.
Immanuel Kant created this category of if you do something good, it has to only be for other people and not at all for yourself, and that is absolute. It's called altruism, and it is the biggest deception in the history of philosophy. There's no such thing. You do something because it's good for you and because it's good for others. Not only good for others and not good for me. It doesn't exist. Yeah, he created a maze that there has no escape. Yeah. So that should be very freeing for you. Don't say like, okay, wait, if I give alms to the poor people, but I'm doing it so I get to heaven, so am I being selfish? Dude, stop that stupid game. We all have done it. Everyone's done that. Because we live in a world that's influenced by this type of philosophy. Yes, do it to get into heaven. Do it so you're happy. What's wrong with your happiness being tied to the happiness of others? That's a much healthier, more human way to think about things than to be like walking around crippled, like I have to be unhappy, otherwise I'm a bad person. No, the point is to be happy in doing good things and in loving God and to find true joy in that. See what I mean? Yeah. Is that because we decades of our lives are wasted on that. Of my life, we're wasted on that story. Yeah. Is it warm?
Right.
It's fine.
It's this new shirt I have. I don't know. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah.
Can you give an example?
No.
Merge of honor and virtue. Like, so, what are like examples of ways that we go from here?
From here to here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So aside from Jesus' solution, which is trying to just impress God, and he's not going to be impressed if anybody else knows about it. Let me rephrase it that way. God is like this really, really like. He has these. He's like a wife with really high standards, and if anybody else owns that car, she doesn't want it. She wants a house. She wants I don't know, something. She wants a gift that is literally one of a kind, or she doesn't want it at all. That's the way God is. Okay. That's a weird thing to say, but whatever. So other things in addition to that, let me try to remember what Socrates suggests. Well, I mean, it's all going to kind of fit into that pattern. I have to kind of go back and think about.
Can I?
He has something.
Yeah. Pray without expecting anything from God. Give without expecting anything.
No, yeah, those are actions. But he's talking about other things. Let me think about that. I'll get back to you. I have to go back to my notes on this book. So the funny thing about Republic 8 is the whole chapter is showing us how to get worse. And it's something that Plato does on purpose because Plato writes in a way to hide what he really believes because Socrates got killed for saying what he really believes, so Plato didn't want to die. So he hid it. So he basically wrote this book 8 backwards. So he wrote it showing how we can get worse, but if you read it carefully, it actually tells you how to get better. So this is the part that I'm going to try to think about, but I can't get back to it right now. Some of these I remember. This one was, hey, you want all the cocaine in the world? Get a job and make some money. And it's going to work. It's a funny way to trick somebody. These are less...
He was describing governments there, right?
So yes and no. He was describing governments, but the governments were symbolic of types of people.
No.
Yeah. Well, let's go first. Yeah.
So for Matthew, in the Lord's Prayer, is the reason why it ends with like, "But deliver us from evil," but deliver us from the evil one, but we say for thine is the kingdom, the power.
Yeah. You want to know about that? So someone's asking about, in the gospel, the Our Father, look at verse 13. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And it ends there. And Wissam is asking an interesting question. When we pray at Mass, and sometimes even outside of Mass, we add this little ending, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, right? Now and forever. I have a theory about that I'm pretty sure I'm right about. That's my like scientific approach to this. I'm fairly sure about this random guess that I have. That ending, we have Our Father, and then all these lines, and then deliver us from evil. From evil. That's the end of the Our Father. Then, at Mass, the priest would continue, for thine is, and just finish the prayer in that way as a kind of conclusion so that he can go to the next prayer. This was a liturgical thing that the priest would continue during Mass. Now, here's where I'm very certain my theory is really solid. Try to get an old lady to shut up during Mass. You can't, especially Chaldean ones. So they just kept saying the priest part. And there's nothing, no force on earth can stop them from saying the priest part. Okay? Literally a gun to their head and they'll say it. Okay? So what happened was everyone just got used to saying this all the time. And then, then we just made that part of the Our Father. And then somebody wrote the thing we say now, which is, indeed, Lord God Almighty, whatever, I don't know how the translation is now, where he literally just repeats the whole Our Father, and I think this is such a lame prayer, and I don't like it at all, because it's just a repetition of the Our Father. I don't like it at all. This was the original ending, for thine is the kingdom and power. But then everybody started to say this, so then someone's like, oh yeah, well I'm going to write another ending then.
Indeed, our Lord and our God.
Yeah,
our
that
Lord
one.
and our God.
Yeah. No, indeed, after the Our Father. That prayer after the Our Father.
Okay.
So, that's my theory. I might be totally wrong about this, but I think I'm right. Because I know how we are. I know how your grandmas are. I know your grandma's better than you do. That's my theory. Anyway, other questions? Yeah.
And happiness is at the top of all of this. Why is it the hardest?
Why is happiness the hardest?
Why is being virtuous and doing things without
Yeah.
wanting the credit?
All this other stuff? It's hardest because we're screwed up as a species. For reasons we'll get back to when we get back to Genesis, actually. At least the analysis there gives us a lot of insight into our own hearts and into our own consciences. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I'll be really honest, I have no idea, but it is the kind of thing that makes life interesting. If we were all just a bunch of perfect people walking around, I mean, some things would be a lot better, but I think that's what heaven is. You know, they have something to look forward to. It also is the kind of thing that makes life dramatic and cool, and it's the reason why we can write stories. There wouldn't really be any stories if it was just a bunch of awesome people just doing everything right. You know what I mean? Doesn't justify your sins, though. Don't get the wrong idea.
And that's why there's Satan, because it's without evil there is no good.
I have time for one more question. Not from you. Yeah,
So you keep mentioning happiness,
I do.
but I want you to clarify what joy versus happiness.
I don't want to. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, sure. Sure. Joy is a feeling, emotion, simply speaking. Happiness is an activity. Happiness is something that we do, is an activity, is a little activity, something that we do. Joy is a byproduct of that can be there sometimes, where we just sort of feel good. It's just gonna, So happiness corresponds to I'm eating the French fries. Joy corresponds to I'm tasting the French fries. Does that make sense? That makes no sense at all. That was like the worst thing I said today. Can you tell that I'm hungry? Have I given you that impression?
Eat some more kumquats.
Yeah, who else wants a kumquat?
I'll take another one.
Okay. These zaytunas love their kumquats.
I'm giving over.
Here's a bigger one. Hold on, you're a big dude.
Give me another one.
Oh yeah.
Source of vitamin C.
Yeah. This will help you with coronavirus when you get it. Go ahead. If you want more, they're up here. Okay, I'm done. Let's pray.